All right, man. Welcome into the Daily Wolves podcast. We are live here. We are on episode 1, the debut episode of the Daily Wolves Courtside. Man, it's been a long time coming. Kind of came out of nowhere, but we're excited. We feel like it's been a long time coming. We're just that excited to bring you guys some new content. We want to really connect the fans to that backstage access. That's what we brought on Wolves writer, media member, a writer for zone coverage, Andrew over here. He's going to be on every courtside episode. You're going to see in the feed on our Spotify, if you're subscribed, if you're on Apple, that courtside logo, look for that, and you're going to see us on there, man. So you'll be seeing it upload, man. But yeah, we're excited to be on. Andrew, I'm excited to have you on, man. Matt, you're here as well. And we just watched the Timberwolves lose in, it's another, boys, let's be honest here. It's another one of those games where the Minnesota Timberwolves, they lose in the clutch, man. They cannot close this season right now. They are struggling. You were in the arena, Andrew. What's kind of like the feeling in the arena when it comes down to those last minutes? Is there angst amongst the fans? How are you guys in the media section? And then what were your thoughts, I guess, coming down there when the Timberwolves, obviously kind of choked, man?
Well, first, thank you for the lovely intro, Evan. Appreciate it. And Matt, I'm glad you're here too, as well. Also, I mean, this game was a little bit different. It's just Jaylen Clark went down with that injury, and kind of the vibe in the arena and everything changed. You hate to see a guy go down injured, and when somebody goes down and like quite literally cracks their head off of the court, like it's just different. Like. Mm-hmm. These guys, 100%. I think, are a lot closer friends than a lot of people realize. So when you see like someone you're good friends with just like have that type of injury, it changed the whole vibe of the game. And I think the Thunder went on a pretty good run right after he got hurt. Nikhil kind of came back and made it close. I mean, as for the late game stuff, it's a mixed bag, right? Because fans want to see Anthony Edwards do the dribble twice, step back three. I think from a writing perspective, that's probably their worst late game offensive play is Ant doing the 2 dribble step back 3. Especially when like Nikhil was having a really good fourth quarter. Nas was getting to the free throw line and hitting shots. And I think kind of it's just almost like a malaise that comes over the crowd of just, oh, Ant's probably going to do his Ant thing. And when it hits, like, it's a WWE caliber pop in that arena, but when it doesn't hit, it's just the groan of like he's getting triple teamed and doing a pull-up 3,
or the ball's bouncing off his leg, like we saw go off his knee at that one point in the game, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's just the problem when you got a super young superstar. I mean, 26, 27-year-old Anthony Edwards is probably rifling that ball to a corner or getting off of it and getting it back. It's just not the same play. But when he's sitting here at 23 years old, he thinks he can do everything in the world. And that confidence is why the Wolves have a winning record. So it's not to bash Ant, but it also causes their late game stuff to get really ISO heavy and pretty sticky.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to bounce off that real quick, actually. The Anthony Edwards confidence thing, it's such a double-edged sword type of thing. Because like you said, when it hits, it's the WWE caliber pop. The highlights are everywhere. All the kids are, oh my gosh, this happened again. But on the other side of the spectrum, I feel like it almost hasn't been talked about enough throughout Wolves fans, the media. Just Anthony Edwards, late game decision making. Anthony Edwards, I don't want to come off as like rude or like just harsh, but like just his inability to run an offense in a late game. When you have 3 people running at you and you're getting pushed to the corner and you're forcing a step back 3, like it's something you learn in 4th grade basketball, So like, I'm not going to sit here and rip on Ant because like you said, his confidence is the reason that we are where we are today. At the same time. So it's one of those things that, like you said, being young, you just have to learn to manage. It's something that he's going to have to grow into probably here pretty soon if we are going to want to start to see success in the long run in the playoffs, because this stuff, it's not going to cut it in a game 5 and a game 4 of the playoffs. So that's kind of just my big takeaway from the night, was just the bad decision making in the 4th.
I mean, you speak of it, both of you kind of go into it, but Andrew, you made a point right there, which was, at 26, 27, Ant's probably not making this mistake, right? And now you look at it this way tonight, SGA, he kind of came in, the game changed at the end, right in the fourth quarter when SGA came in. He started making plays. He started taking the team, putting it on his back. He wasn't just scoring. He was also playmaking, hitting threes. He was assisting, right? I mean, SGA ended with 37 points. Just an insane stat line, man. Like 8 assists, 8 rebounds, 3 steals or something. Like just incredible, right? 54% field goal percentage. And that's what, and SGA is older than Ant, right? He's where Ant is going, right? So you got to look at it that way too, where that is what a superstar player does. And they're consistent, and that's what SGA has been this year. It's probably why he's going to win MVP, averaging 32 points a game. And Ant, that's where he needs to get to, right? And we think Anthony Edwards can have a higher upside than SGA, and I think we're all super high on him. I think everyone in Minnesota is high on him. But yeah, speaking of what you guys were saying, I think that's the difference right now, and you just kind of saw it tonight between SGA and Ant when it kind of came down there in the game. I mean, Ant still had an okay game, like overall, and that's crazy that we're kind of like people listening are probably like Ant still had 29 points. He still had 10 assists, 7 rebounds, 2 steals. Like it sounds like we're talking about Ant as if he's completely the reason why the Timberwolves lost. And it just shows you that's how good stars are in the league, that when you're having kind of an off night, they're still putting up that kind of a stat line that he put up tonight, which I think it's incredible, man.
This episode is sponsored by Head Flyer Brewing. For those that live or are visiting the Minneapolis area and are looking for a great place to sit down, watch some sports, have a beer, and great pizza, Head Flyer is the place for you. Located in Northeast Minneapolis, Head Flyer Brewing is the place for my beer connoisseurs. With more than 13 flavors of their own brew, all freshly made on Head Flyer's tap room right on campus. For my folks who tend to lean more green, Head Flyer also provides their own crafted seltzer cocktails and THC seltzers. Head Flyer is also partnered with the new national phenomenon, OG Zaza Pizza Truck, which just recently had their own episode aired on the Food Network. OG Zaza provides the best New Haven-style pizza that I have ever tried, with flavors ranging from pepperoni to garlic parm blends to foot-long breadsticks and so much more. Come on out to Head Flyer Brewing, located at 861 East Hennepin Avenue, Suite 100 in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Another guy that I thought had a amazing game tonight that I know everybody on here listening or that's listening to this tomorrow is going to be wondering about is Jaylen Clark, man, because he played an incredible game, guys. I mean, Jaylen Clark, let's just be honest. Since he's came to the Timberwolves, since he's been playing this year, he looks like he's belonged in the NBA. He looks like he's been a starter for day one. He does not look like he hasn't played that many NBA games. He struggled a little bit a couple games there, but overall he's been absolutely amazing. He doesn't make mistakes. Finch loves him, and he plays all NBA defense in the arena. He goes down tonight. He has 18 points. He's absolutely smashing it. And then he gets that head injury where he snaps back. I don't know if people saw it listening, but if you haven't, I put it out on my on my Twitter or my X. You can find the video if you go into my recent posts, and you can find it. You can see the replay because it's a pretty vicious, snapping to the head there. I mean, it looks like he's gonna have a concussion. And I remember, what was it kind of like in the arena, Andrew, when that happens, that injury happened, and what kind of did you notice, I guess, live there in the arena?
Well, it's just, any injury like that where a guy's just laying on the ground. Clark isn't a player that falls a lot, which sounds weird, but Naz Reid falls down a lot. That's him and Ant fall. Jaylen Clark doesn't fall very often. So when he falls and looks hurt, it's one of those things where it immediately catches everyone's eyes. It zapped the energy out of it. It took the energy out of the team. Like I said earlier, these guys are.
Did you feel it or see it with the players, on in the bench or anything in the arena? You're saying it, you saw it, what anything that you saw when you were there tonight, or maybe that fans that were there might have seen.
Joe walked out. He was the first guy out there, and then after that, trainers ushered him off. He did kind of stumble off the court and look like he was going to go down the main tunnel instead of the players' tunnel. My guess is he probably has a pretty wicked concussion. I know it came out as a neck injury, which it could be. It could be whiplash, but that looked like a concussion caliber hit. That's football stuff, not basketball. In terms of the rest of the team, you can just tell when someone goes down like that, the looks on their faces is just kind of like, oh crap. Like, and it makes sense. Like, it's hard to just, I think football players talk about it quite a bit too, of just like when someone goes down with an injury, it's really hard to just like snap back in and like go in the huddle and just do your job.
100%.
And the NBA is so fast paced that like when someone goes down, it's not like it takes a play to recalibrate. If it takes 5 minutes, then you have a 12-0 run.
Yeah.
I think the other thing with Clark tonight is he was phenomenal on SGA, like just making things tough.
Unreal.
And when he went down, I mean, Nikhil's great, but Nikhil's kind of a more like handsy, slender speed defender. I mean, Jaden's great, but like Jaylen also is a little bit slower than SGA and swings his arms a lot. Like Clark just bodies people. So like when Clark went down, the only other guy that has that like physicality is Ant. So it just put him in a terrible spot. And I mean, they play him again tomorrow night, which I mean,
insane. Less than 24
I don't know
hours.
what. That's the tough part is I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, they got good minutes out of Garza tonight. I guess, you know, Rob's second stint was a lot better than his first one.
Yeah.
There's some things to glean from, but SGA just kind of torches this team when it's not Clark recently. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. I mean, all of their starters logged pretty heavy minutes too, because the game was close. It kind of feels like tomorrow might be one of those rare back-to-back wins for OKC on a home away back-to-back.
Yeah, and I guess a few things that I want to touch on. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I was actually talking with my roommate before we hopped on this podcast, and he was bringing that up because he's actually a Thunder fan. So I'm going to be hearing about this until tomorrow. But
sorry.
Yeah, it's going to stink. But yeah, no, full honesty, I kind of forgot where I was going to go with that, but I'll pop to it. Also, I was going to ask about Rob Dillingham, back to what you were saying about that second stint. That was a lot better. During that first stint when he was there, Rob is just he's kind of looked a little bit shaky. He's looked rough. Like he just hasn't looked like himself. He doesn't look confident, you know? I don't know if like that stems from hey, like, I don't want to mess up. Like, I think my leash is still short. Like, does Finch want perfection type of thing? But I guess what's kind of like the vibe around like with Rob Dillingham? Is this just one of those things that he's a young player, he's gonna grow into it? He's a small guard in the NBA that just turned 20, or is it kind of one of those things that, you know, you're kind of like, like maybe we were just appalled by the quickness, the handles, I guess the different jump shot, or is this just one of those cases, young guard learning about the NBA?
So shameless plug. I wrote about Rob Dillingham for my Sunday article. So zone coverage, it's over there. Check it out. It's pinned to my profile too. But anyways, so Rob is really, really good at certain things, like getting to the rim, finishing with layups, finishing with like that scoop shot that he hits. He's really good at like the pull-up threes. And then he is really, really bad at other things. Like his turnover percentage is the second highest on the team. His defensive rating is the second worst on the team. And when he gets switched onto a forward or a center, they score 70% on 2-point shots. I mean, he is just a complete liability on defense. I mean, it's literally, if Rob is in there, and like tonight in that first stint, he had one turnover and one turnover worthy play. They ended up calling it a jump ball within 3 minutes. And then on defense, it's just Shea has 4 inches on him. He's just going to bully him to the paint. If they hide him on Dort's going to just pull him to a paint. If they hide him on like Caruso, they're going to get a switch and bully him to the paint. So it's until Rob can kind of build more size and understand like how to be a smaller defender, which he has literally like the best guy in the league. Mike Conley is a smaller defender that has been a plus defender his entire career. Like he has the guys to learn
100%.
from. It's just, he's so small. And then offensively, I don't think he's like, and I haven't talked to him since before the All-Star break, but like to me, it doesn't seem like he's concerned about making mistakes as much. I think he just thinks he's used to playing in college, right? Where he can make those passes. He can blow past 90% of the players in the league.
Yeah.
He can needle passes into the corner. And in the NBA, the spaces are smaller. Everyone's faster. Everyone's bigger. And I think he's just struggling with that change where now there's film on him. Every team knows what he likes to do. Every team knows what he's going to do in the offense. Every team's going to be planning for it. So now it's like, what's next? And unfortunately, that just takes time.
Yeah, most definitely. And then just while I got the mic, one other thing that I did want to cover, Jaylen Clark, both of you guys were super high on him, super high praises. I was blown away by Jaylen Clark's first half performance and then that early stint, obviously, in the second before he went down with the injury. With Jaylen Clark, like you said earlier, Andrew, he's kind of a similar player to Nikhil Alexander-Walker. Just the way that they play defense is similar. They're both players that aren't known for their offense, but when they get hot, they're microwave scorers. They can go on and they can continue to score the ball. But Jaylen Clark, is this a name that, you know, and Evan chime in here too, but is Jaylen Clark one of those names that we're going to look back on, do you guys think, in like the next 3-4 years and be like, wow, like how did we end up with this guy, such a late pick, and like disregarding the injury? But wow, like Jaylen Clark has been phenomenal for like how much he's played this year. I would say he has been borderline perfect for how young he is, how much inexperience he has. I like Jaylen Clark is one of the best and most consistent young players that I have watched this year. So I'm just kind of curious, like, what do you guys think that like Jaylen Clark needs to do, like, for the remainder of this season into the offseason to really like take his game to the next level for people to be like, oh my gosh, like we got to get guarded by Jaden McDaniels, and then off the bench comes Jaylen Clark. Like, what is it going to take for Jaylen Clark to get his name out into the press and like make his name in the NBA? What do you guys think?
I mean, I think for me, Jaylen Clark, the biggest thing is, can you hit the 3-point shot? I think that's the biggest thing for him, for me. He's obviously shown the ability so far to drive to the hoop, which I think is really impressive. You can see him forcing the ball down there. He's not afraid to kind of go up there and get that. He seems like he has a nose around the rim to kind of get that rebound and gets those like putbacks, which I'm surprised about with Jaylen Clark. I thought he was just going to be a 3-and-D player. But honestly, his 3-point shot, just being consistent there, that takes him to a whole new level. I think like he's going to get plenty of shots because he's playing with Anthony Edwards. He's playing alongside these talented players. He's going to be on the floor with, you know, talented players soon, like Julius Randle, who's going to be able to pass him the ball, right? We know Randle, he's one of those players that, you know, he's a phenomenal playmaker, right? He's a passer and he will be coming back. And then you'll have other guys like Dante coming back. So he's going to get plenty of time. I think Jaylen Clark, I think we talked about it, Andrew. He's one of those guys that I feel like he just plays no matter what, almost when the lineup's fully, you know, back here. I think we've kind of agreed that, you know, Rob Dillingham might be the kind of guy that gets the DNP or doesn't play as often, just because Jaylen's just been the most consistent, I would say, out of like him, TSJ, Rob, Josh. You know, Jaylen's just shown, and it just seems like Finch already, you can tell he just trusts him. He loves him, but he just trusts him, and you can just see it, right? And so I think Clark is a name he's here to stay. You're going to see him in the playoffs. I think he's going to make real noise then. And then if you can lock him up on a good contract, I mean, it's an absolute steal when you're in a contract situation like the Minnesota Timberwolves right now, when you're a team that's going to be battling the second apron or you have high salary contracts. He's valuable, man. You're going to have to hit on certain guys in the draft. And it looks like Tim might have hit.
I mean, he has played 221 minutes this season and has 2 turnovers. That's what it is. Chris Finch loves his backup point guards to take care of the ball. Monte Morris had an insane assist to turnover ratio. Mike Conley, right? Tyus Jones, J-Mac. I mean, that's the number one thing Chris Finch, just historically looking at stats, don't turn the ball over when you're in for the starter. And 2, he does not make mistakes. I mean, the other thing that I've been kind of paying attention to is his
Yeah.
3-point shot in college, right? As a freshman, he shot 20% from three. As a sophomore, he shot 26%. As a junior, he shot 33% before the Achilles injury. This season, he's coming out, and I mean, it's probably not sustainable, but he's shooting 37.5% after tonight's game, or 42.3% after tonight's game. So, like, he has consistently improved at his shot every single season. And then it's just his size. I mean, he's 6'4", but he can guard everyone.
Today's show is also brought to you by Better, the sports betting app brought to you by Jake Paul. Sign up with our code, TheDailySPN, to get a deposit match up to $200, meaning if you deposit $200, Better will match that and give you $200 in free bets. Better is currently available in 34 out of the 50 states in the U.S., including Minnesota. If you see your state in the purple, that means you are eligible to download Better and start winning money today. Me personally, I usually find myself taking Anthony Edwards over on three-pointers made, which I'm actually taking tonight against the Thunder, along with Jaylen Williams to go under 24.5 points plus assists. Again, sign up with the code TheDailySPN, all one word, to receive a $200 deposit match and start winning money today.
Yeah, it's on.
Sneaker
It's
reporter
on,
making a cameo.
Hey, what's good? No, it's honestly amazing to see him play like the way he does. And I kind of want to pivot off of that too, because there's another defender on the team who's, arguably one of the best defenders in the whole NBA, right? And he's been absolutely incredible this, second, or I guess he started off the season very slow, pretty poor, right? But now he's proving that he's worth his contract. And I think, that saying, man, they got KD, but we got Jaden McDaniels. That's what we got to talk about right now, because 17 points tonight for Jaden, 13 rebounds, man, 1 assist. He was really he's just been a consistent, like, 18-point kind of a game, 8 rebounds kind of since Randall's been out. He's been holding the fort down. And even before Randall went out, he was starting to find his game. And I think if Jaden plays like this, I mean, it takes the Timberwolves to a new level. I think that's one of the reasons why they're skyrocketing in net rating over like these last weeks, right? You're seeing his mid-range game open up. You see him again tonight, hitting some shots, aggressive in there, getting under the hoop and going for a rebound. I just feel like Jaden, I mean, he hasn't been hitting his 3-point shot as much. If the threes start falling again, I mean, good Lord, you're looking at a really good player if that starts happening. But right now, Jaden just looks like a changed man. This is what we've wanted from him. How big is Jaden McDaniels, Matt, for the future of the Timberwolves this season and going forward, man?
Well, yeah, Jaden McDaniels, he's one of those players that has like the physical build that you dream of. The Kevin Durant build, the Herb Jones, the Jaden McDaniels, the super lanky athletic guys. But Jaden is one of the most important pieces for this team in the long run. I would say it's probably Ant, Nas, and then you could argue Jaden's in that 3-4 range. But when it comes to Jaden McDaniels, I think the big thing for him was just kind of figuring out how and where he fit in this offense. Because I think at the end of last year, at the end of the playoff run, we were starting to see it. He was starting to put it together, even in the second half of last season. And then when you come into the beginning of this season, it's new guys, new faces, Julius, Dante, figuring out how they play, trying to incorporate Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon, all these new guys. And he almost got stuff turned upside down, right? And Jaden McDaniels, he's a big, long, lanky guy who uses his height and his size to his advantage. And I feel like in the beginning of the year, we kind of just expected him to kind of turn into a corner 3-point shooter. That's kind of just where he got relegated to. So I think that just did a lot. Well, not necessarily did a lot for his confidence, but definitely it does a little bit. It shakes you, But once we've talked about this many times, actually, Evan, but sometimes injuries are a blessing in disguise for other players, like Jaylen Clark getting his opportunity. I think the Julius Randle and Dante going down was another blessing for Jaden. Jaden kind of figured out his role. He figured out his groove, where his spots are, how to get to him. He looks confident with the ball. So I think that's kind of what it came down to. It was just a situation when it was right, when Jaden was going to put it together. And now we know what Jaden McDaniels can be. He can be that true number 3 option who can And if he's not scoring, he's going to go clamp up your best player. So there's always like, it's usually one or the other with Jayden, and it's usually the defense that outweighs the offense. But with him putting it together, it's another one of those elite 3-and-D players. And another thing that he actually took a massive step in that doesn't really get talked about, but I have been really, really impressed with, is his rebounding. Last year, I think he was averaging like 3 boards, 3.5 boards a game. And just tonight, 13 boards. In these last few games, 6, 8, 10. Like Jaden McDaniels is finally like figuring out like just placement, how to use his body at the professional level. And it's just something to continue to grow on. Like you said, Evan, if that 3-point shot starts falling, like the league's got to be on notice. So that's my take on Jaden.
This is a hot take, and I want to get Andrew's opinion on this because I don't know why, but this is like my hot take I want to throw out for this episode since it's our debut episode here. Hypothetically, if Kevin Durant came to the Timberwolves, my hot take is Jaden McDaniels would benefit from it more than Anthony Edwards or anybody on the team. Now, you start and you think about it, why? And I go, Jaden's body, his build, it mimics KD. You see Kevin Durant in Jaden McDaniels, right? Maybe because Jaden's starting to find it. You're seeing it right now, right? He's starting to understand, like you said, how to use his body, where to be, that he can, shoot that mid-range shot. He's starting to kind of figure it out and unlock it. I think learning from a guy, who else can Jaden go to with that exact same body type and find, someone to coach him, right? So my hot take is that would help Jaden McDaniels unlock everything because he's able to talk to somebody who's kind of the clone of him, body type wise. What do you think of that, Andrew?
I mean, I'm just going to spurt out some stats here for you first before I answer that, because like, I think Jaden's figuring it out.
Yeah.
Without that, he's shooting 47.4% from mid-range since December 1st. He's shooting 40% on above the break threes since December 1st. And he's shooting 67% in the restricted area. Like, Jaden's just good. Like, he's kind of pigeonholed when this team's at full strength because Ant needs touches, Julius needs touches. I honestly think if there was like a KD trade this offseason, Durant's going to need touches and probably more than Julius. I think the best thing for Jaden would be for him to just be able to kind of develop as that like third star on the team. I can see what you're saying with like the similarities in like their build and just like what they are good at. But I really think like the best thing that could happen to Jaden is just consistent being the third scorer on a team, or games where he's the second scorer, or games where he just gets the leash more to kind of make his own decisions on offense. Because he's really figuring it out that, whatever that weird little push shot is that he gets into the paint and just like, it's not a hook shot, it's not a floater, it's not a fadeaway, but it's a shot that is really good that he can make over anyone because he has like an 11-foot wingspan or something ridiculous. So I just think Jaden just needs time to breathe and just needs more opportunities in general, which I just don't know if he's getting that with Kevin Durant. And I'll say it, I'll preface it as like, I don't think Jaden really cares. Like, I think he's just, as long as he's like winning basketball games,
he's here to hoop.
Cares if he shoots 15 times a game, but like for his game to develop, like he needs to just get more consistent offense. And then the rebounding is funny. I think it was Dane Moore that asked Finch post game about just like Jaden's rebounding, and Finch was just kind of like, yeah, we never really tried it, but like he's playing off ball more and he's really good at it, so we're gonna keep doing it. Like,
no, he's been awesome.
I just don't think anyone thought Jaden could rebound this well.
Right.
I don't think anyone saw it coming. It makes sense with his size and his length that he can get rebounds. So it's great to see him being able to do it at such like a young age because he's going to develop, right? He's going to get still a little bit stronger here. Obviously, there's another guy in that three-headed monster of the youth, right? The young guys, I guess, of the future for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's a fan favorite. It's Naz Reid, right? Everyone calls him two words in Minnesota. Another great game, 22 points, 11 rebounds. I do not understand how you can, like when Julius Randle comes back, which according to, Shams might be, it looks like they're coming back this week, right? Dante and Julius, for those who, are listening who didn't hear about it, they think at some point in this, road trip Minnesota has coming up this week here, starting tomorrow, I guess, or starting when people listen to this episode, they will be in OKC, that, Randall and Dante are going to return. I just can't imagine Naz Reid being taken out of the starting lineup after the way he's been playing. He's doing it every single night, and he just spreads the floor, brings that energy. You see him, he's a hustler, he's a dog, man. Under the hoop, he gets those blocks that you kind of don't see coming, but Naz Reid gets those sneaky blocks every game. I love his game, Matt. And how do you take him out if you're Chris Finch? I guess I'll ask both of you this question, man. I'll start with you, Matt. Like, what are you doing if you're Chris Finch? Are we keeping Naz Reid in there, or because how do you take him out, man?
Yeah, man. If I'm Chris Finch, like you said, you don't take him out. I think that we've seen lots of growth from Nas since this Julius injury and Dante injury, and I already hit it on the head earlier. We've seen a bunch of growth from Jaylen, and I think part of that does have to do with floor spacing and just what is available, who is on the floor at the time, and just kind of what the opportunity presents.
100%.
Right. And I think that prior to Julius getting hurt as well, it kind of looked like Julius was running really well with that second unit. And the big thing prior to the All-Star break was like some Wolves fans, like I'm guilty as charged, but we're calling for Julius Randle, go to the bench. Julius Randle, don't take as much of a role, like whatever the case may be, right? But Julius Randle, he's here with us now, right? It's post All-Star break. We know he's with us until at least the end of the season, right? We can throw the politics behind us because before, you're not going to bench a player who makes $30 million. Like, that's just not a thing in the NBA, right? So it just wouldn't have been a reasonable or a logical thing. But with just how your team is playing, you need a scorer outside of Anthony Edwards that's consistent with the second unit. Julius Randle brings that. I feel like sometimes with the second unit, they rely on the three-pointer a lot. And like we saw earlier tonight, and I know it wasn't with the second unit, but the starters, the three wasn't falling. A player like Julius Randle, pound it in the middle, just completely prevent that from happening, just kind of reset the offense and everything. I think that could benefit both Julius Randle for his next contract and for our second unit. I feel like it's a no-brainer. Obviously, I'm not an NBA coach for a reason, but just from this fan perspective, like that's just like what makes sense to me from what I've seen, from what I've watched from all perspectives. And yeah, I guess, what do you think about that, Andrew?
I mean, the good news, I guess, for like that situation is Rudy's probably going to miss quite a bit of time. I mean, I'm in my 30s. I've sneezed too hard and put my back into a spasm, and then like you feel like death for multiple days. He was on the bench this game, so like that's an improvement from Houston. But like my guess is he's probably going to miss at least a couple more games. I would assume. So, it gives a little bit of leeway to where Randall can come back and Nas is still starting. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like Nas is going to go back to the bench. It's just, to me, it doesn't matter as much who's starting because they're going to play 6 minutes and then the rotation's going to start. It's more about who's finishing the games. Yeah. And I think at this point, Nas has kind of proven that he deserves to be finishing these games. So it just gives Finch more kind of like malleability where, if it's a tough matchup for Rudy or they need the shooting, Nas can be in there for Rudy. If Randall's having an off night or Randall looks like he's off, he can be in there for Randall. Nas is also kind of like, or Finch, I should say, has mentioned that he's been kicking around Nas at the 3. So if Nikhil's having a bad night, if Mike's having a bad night, if Jaden's having a bad night, you might see Nas at the 3 with the other two centers. It just opens up more doors. I mean, Naz Reid is kind of like Jayden. They just want to win games. I think this offseason might be a discussion of, it's not like on video games where you're like signing a contract and you guarantee him as a starter. Like, I think if Naz Reid gets paid and they're like, you're going to play 25 to 30 minutes a night, I think I can't speak for him, but like I think that's more important to him than just like if he's coming out of the tunnel.
No, I get that. I think, like you said, it's all about who closes, man. That's really, and when your coaches they lay their cards out of their guys, it's the guys who close, right? And you're starting to see that with Nas Reed, which I think is a really good idea. Um, boys, I think we're gonna kind of wrap things up here for episode 1. I hope everybody that listens to this episode here, enjoyed what we kind of bring to the table. Obviously, we're in the debut episode, but it's gonna be a ton of fun covering the Minnesota Timberwolves for the rest of the season. We're trying to get episodes pumped out to you guys post game every single game. You're going to find us the next day. There's going to be live streams at some point or two where we can have fans join, and we would love to take fan questions. We'd love for people to hop on at some point. And you never really know what's going to happen. There might be some giveaways at some point for listeners. You just kind of have to stay tuned, and you just never know what's going to happen. That's what I always like to, put in for the followers, man. But yeah, we're partnered with SeatGeek. You can find us out there. Put our promo code when you sign up for SeatGeek, and you can put in the Daily Wolves, all one word, and you're going to get $20 off your first order with SeatGeek, man. It's just simple, man. We're saving you tickets if you're trying to go to a Timberwolves game, a Wild game. MLS is starting to come around pretty soon here. Maybe you're going to a concert, man. SeatGeek's the best place to buy tickets, man. Again, the Daily Wolves, and SeatGeek will take care of you, $20 off. But yeah, it's been great having you on, Andrew. It's been great having you on, Matt. This is the Daily Wolves Courtside. And until next time, as always, go Wolves.